If you are watching this, I'm sure you're going to learn quite a little bit. Have you got anything prepared, or are you just going to freestyle?
Well, I am ready for that fireside chat, Gary. That conversation with your interactive, insightful brain. And currently, what I'm doing is I'm preparing a coaching session with the professor in Transylvania. I've got some money to pay out. I've got work on my next project waiting for me to do, which is around the UK. I've got a guy who's about to be hired by us trying to call me, and I'm surrounded by the winner of the last year's judging of the Business Book Awards, and some of the books I've just recently finished too.
Well, you're a very busy person, and we really appreciate you jumping on here. So how about for the next 20 minutes, we just a bit of Q&A, and we see where it lends us. Yeah,
that would be awesome. Yeah. So
okay.
You tell me.
Let's go back a little bit to school. What kind of you're 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, that kind of age. Did you like school? What were you an academic?
I wasn't particularly, I wasn't a boffin, but I enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning, and I had this desire to go into business. It wasn't quite clear. I think I was an inventor at the age of 11, just fiddling around with ideas, but I didn't do anything with them. So yeah, I enjoyed school, as much as a teenager can enjoy school, right? So yeah, it was good, but I really enjoyed university.
You were a rich dad, poor dad, young entrepreneur, loads of ideas. When was your first pound when you earned yourself without anybody helping you?
That's a good question. I started working when I was 13. So if that's sort of, I think I did a paper round or worked at my uncle's shop, probably even earlier than that, just kind of helping out in family business, just pottering around. But I think my first, I remember buying a book and it was called The Midas Touch, and it was like how to turn your ideas into money. And I bought that when I was like a teenager. And then at 17, I bought another thicker book about how to get rich. And it was basically about how to find stuff that government had confiscated and buy them cheap and then sell them. And I didn't do anything with that. So I've been trying to do things for years.
I really love that. If you're watching this either now or on the replay, the knowledge is out there for you to be rich, for you to be happy, for you to lose weight, for you to build muscles, whatever the hell it is. The problem is the implementation. Like, there's enough knowledge, YouTube now, you can figure anything out. It's the implementation. And I don't know what it is about younger people that think that they can't do stuff. I'll share a story with you. This plumber came round to my house when I was 17, and I didn't like the look of him at all. He was flirting with my mum. So he left, and he left us a quote. Hello, Carol. He left us a quote for the job for my bathroom to be tiled. So what I did is I said, look, Mum, save yourself £300. I'll do it. And she burst out laughing. She said, you can't. So I went to B&Q, and at the time at B&Q, there was a little leaflet bit said, look, do it yourself. Just do it yourself. You'll figure it out. So I bought all the bits, and I went to the library and I took out a book on tiling. And to this day, my tiling is still there. From that moment, I learned that every lesson isn't in a classroom. So there are tons, like why we put these Friday schedules together is to share these brilliant people. You don't become a judge in a book award or take on 300 Kickstarters without having some skills there.
It's so true. So to do the Kickstarter work, I think it's having hired 200 people for my own companies in the past few years, past 10, 15 years, and having raised lots of money through grants So I just thought this was straightforward. I wasn't too phased by it. I mean, I have no greater privilege to do the Kickstarter scheme than any of the companies that I supported. It's just I was doing the stuff that was involved in this for many years before. So when they approved my application, I was like, yeah, straightforward. Although it's a lot of work.
As a gateway, it is a lot of work. So we come up to, you've left school, you've gone uni.
I went to university, accounting and finance was my subject. Considering
Numbers
I'm
man.
dyslexic, yeah,
So then
considering I'm dyslexic, it was an interesting choice.
when did you decide to go entrepreneurial?
Well, I actually did business courses at college. I did A-level accounting, business studies, and economics, as well as a bit of photography. So I decided I wanted to do business rather than be a typical doctor, which is what my parents would have wanted me to do, but I couldn't do it. It wasn't my thing. So having worked from the age of 13, in small businesses, you get really close to how money is made and you get a bug for it. And I used to remember watching the flash cars drive by with their private number plates and thinking, oh, well, I could do that. I'd like some of that. So that kind of got me into it. But then I worked for HSBC, so I was surrounded by lots of money, and they spent £70,000 on my training over about a year and a half. So that was a good grounding into what goes on around business. And I enjoyed the training. I didn't enjoy the job, so I left. And then I went into Aldi. I went on as a district manager, got training. I got a great pay rise, but it didn't work out. And then I worked for Everready, the battery company, learned to sell expensive products in a market where things are much cheaper. And then I went on to Virgin Media. I went to sell business telecoms around, and then eventually got a promotion and went around the country. But I was made redundant quite a lot. I was made redundant twice before the age of 30. So I thought, the corporate world doesn't really want me. So I actually went and set up my own company about 22 years ago. And continue with that now forever. I
love it. And look, this is Carol, by the way. She's my business partner. We didn't quite go the gateway. Even though we had a gateway, we went a much quicker route. Carol, do you want to ask some questions too? So we're up to speed in your entrepreneurial life. You've been teaching your young people, your 300 people, once a week. You've been telling them stuff.
We've been doing.
So when you teach them once a week, what is it you teach them?
We're teaching them things like we're teaching them stuff that I think is pretty useful in getting ahead. So I teach them networking skills and the importance of networking. Teach them how to be comfortable with talking to people, making useful connections and building a network for them, because I think that's really important. The power of the network is super essential. We teach them how to deal with difficult situations. We teach them how to handle stress. We also teach them how to be their authentic self. And I use the Japanese philosophy of Ikigai, which translates into the reason to get out of bed in the morning, and how to live a long and fruitful life. And that's a really interesting philosophy. So we teach them stuff that I think.
Would you share that philosophy before you go on to the next sentence?
Well, Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Yeah. Ikigai. Let me type that in the chat. And if you Ikigai, you can Google that. It's a really great. It's a great balancing philosophy, because what it does, it shows you that you need to have certain aspects of your life to live a happy and fruitful life. So you might just enjoy socializing all the time, but not enjoy work because work's boring. You might work really hard, but you do nothing for yourself, and that's no use in you. So it's about doing things that matter to you as a person, as an individual, and understanding that you have to balance that with stuff that you might not enjoy but makes a living and allows you to get better at something that is of value to you and the world. So if you have the sense of balance, you live a much more harmonious life. You know what it's like when all you're doing is you're working, and it's just tough and it's demoralizing and it's difficult. But if all you do is play when you go on holiday, just going on holiday sometimes can be a bit boring as well, because it's great for a while, but then it's like I've got nothing else to do. Some people think the ideal of life is sitting on a beach, but I think most people who'd sit on a beach after a week would get pretty bored, and get pretty dull. So, and in your work, there are skills you need as young people in your work. You're just starting out, and you need to invest in yourself. As you invest in yourself, those jobs that Gary and Carol and I are doing will eventually be yours. And those chief executive roles, those manager roles, those supervisor roles, those fantastic, interesting career steps, they belong to the future. They belong to people that are coming in now. And you need to invest in yourself to prepare for those positions. Because whilst it seems difficult to get into something, those companies there know they need to recruit, because that's the longevity of the company. So you need to invest in yourself. But it's hard work to invest in yourself. So the Ikigai process shows you that you need to invest, and you need to get really good at something, and then you understand why things are important in the world as well, because you have a place in the world that only you can fulfill. We're all unique. You take 100 doctors. They're all doctors, they're all qualified together, but they all do something different. They all save people's lives in a different way. And 100 nurses, they do things differently. And there's 100 of us, we all do things differently in the world. We all make an impact differently in the world. And knowing that you make an impact, however small it is a very motivational belief to have.
I love that.
Thank you. It's made a difference for me, and I teach it to myself, and I've taught it to people all over the world.
Yeah, knowing the rules and following the rules are two different things there.
Yes, absolutely.
So
well, knowing your own boundaries. Go on. Sorry, Gary.
No, I shouldn't interrupt. So you go, and I can wait.
I think having a sense of self is really important. Whatever you and I teach over these sessions, all they're doing is really reinforcing that, that sense of self-confidence. And I think that younger people are a bit unsure about themselves because we've lacked practice in being ourselves over the past couple of years. So, that those summers, those winters, when they're out and about and talking and growing those sort of personal skills have not been there. And venturing out is quite challenging, and there's so much more anxiety in the world because these open opportunities are new, and it feels like it's been ages since we've done these things. So I think the sense of personal mission in life is important, and if you have a mission in life, then you're more likely to work, get over the barriers. Whereas if you don't have a sense of clarity on where you're going, you won't walk through you won't break the walls down and jump through the fire to try and achieve those goals.
Can you hear me with my headphones in?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Right, it's a bit clearer this way. We talked about networking. So I don't know about you, but I'm getting loads of value, and sometimes you need to hear it in different formats. These are all very similar things that we talk about, being happy and mindset. Now, networking. I was listening to a podcast, Lewis Howes, one of my favorites. It's called The School of Greatness. And he was talking to this guy that went for a job interview. And it became very apparent to the young man that it wasn't for him. He was selling Xerox photocopiers. He said, look, this job isn't for me, but I'm very impressed with you. It's a young person saying, can I have your card? And maybe one day I'll buy you a coffee. And the guy was so impressed. He said, look, here's my card. 1 year later, he rang him up and he said, look, could we go for that coffee you promised, that I promised you? And they went out, and this guy's a multi-billionaire now. But from that one connection, he then said that he opened up the whole of America for him in his own business. And this is about networking. You all have a lifetime membership of this Kickstarter. If you leave the WhatsApp group, you've suddenly lost 100 contacts. Everybody you meet, if you can try and get them on your LinkedIn, wow, forever. And make a little note, oh, that guy's really good at that. That guy's really good at that. That lady's really good at that. Like, I wish somebody gave me that advice, because it will come in useful. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who will be useful to know in 10 years time. And that for me is good pure networking. Genuinely interested in someone, you think, well, there's a good connection there. I like what I'm hearing from you. Let's stay in touch, even if it's just once a year, and you send them a Christmas card. Carol, I know you're a avid you love a bit of networking. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just actually rewriting my networking book at the moment. Networking is, it's incredibly important, and it's not something that most people are taught when they start their career. Depending on what sort of firm you go into, that might become part of, what you do. But again, it's particularly something that's not taught to women, in the big, the big firms, the big city firms. A man will take another man under his wing. They'll go and play golf together, or they'll go to the pub on a Friday night or whatever. But I still don't see that happening enough with women in business. So it's something that you have to develop for yourself. And the people that you know now are the people that you'll be doing business with in 20 or 30 years' time, when they are head of a firm or a head of a department or whatever, and you can call on them. And, that's what, Gary, and I'm sure Assim and I all do. So, people that I hooked up with in the junior chamber back in the day, when I was young enough to be in the junior chamber, I still know today. And one of those is Veronica Robinson, who's head of Robinson's Breweries now. Well, she wasn't when I met her. She was just the daughter of the guy who owned Robinson's Breweries. So, these people, you never know where people are going to end up and who they're going to know. And, but they will help you, and you will help them as you go through life if you start to build that network now.
You're absolutely right. And it's such a, it is a skill, but it's more of a craft, it's something that you do if you enjoy it. If you enjoy the process, if you're curious about people, then it's not networking. I've got so many events where they say, okay, go and do some networking, and it's like, it's not.
I'm always networking. I talk to people on buses. I talk to people on trains. Gary talks to random people in the street.
I believe Gary does that. Yeah, and he probably changes their life forever, don't you, Gary? In doing so, I'm not so keen on, like, going to an event and there's an hour of networking. I feel a bit, it's too mechanical a process. I prefer it when it's more organic, where go and have a conversation, or you create opportunities for people to talk to each other in a much more relaxed and informal way. I mean, I was at an event around the Commonwealth in Birmingham a couple of days ago, and it was fabulous. So, it was a great place. Andy Street, the mayor, came, but we were just moving around, seeing things, and there were just opportunities to talk to each other and find out a bit about it.
What would you give our Kickstarters as a tip to get a conversation going?
There's two things. One, be curious about people. Actually, don't go into it to get something. Just be curious. If there's something somebody says, ask about it, and that's all you need. The other thing is, I'll give you a really simple analogy. Networking sometimes feels like it should be crossing a road, crossing a busy road, and then you have to stand in front of a car and get somebody's attention and say, hey, look at me, I want to have a conversation. That's not how networking is. If you stand in front of a car on the road, you're going to get knocked over. What's better to do is to watch the road, and see who's going by and see where people are going and find something that you like. So find the car that you like. Imagine this is now going very slowly. And then you kind of walk up to that car and you say, hey, that's a really interesting thing. That's a really interesting direction, or that's a really interesting color, or that's a really interesting thing that you said when you were talking earlier on. And you kind of join them on their journey. And if you join people on their journey rather than stop them in their tracks, you're much more likely to have a more successful conversation. And if you're interested, they'll see that you're interested. And whenever you meet people that are interested in you, it's really interesting. It's like, wow, this person actually has listened to me and heard what I'm saying, or they've taken note of something I've done. And then suddenly, the barriers are down straight away. Whereas you just, you and I, we've probably all been to events where somebody just kind of comes into the group, introduces themselves, hands out cards, and you think, I didn't even think we were doing that. We were talking about the football or something, and here you are. It's better just to listen in and reflect upon the conversation and ask about what people are talking about before you kind of dive in. So be curious and then join them on the journey.
If I may add something, because I'm a serial network. I love it. The follow-up is very important. Like when I first met you, you had a very nice waist jacket on. Am I right in saying that?
I've got a jacket. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, you were flamboyant. You were you seemed like the most interesting judge in the room to me.
Too kind.
You stood out, right? So I was like, this guy looks interesting. And you were sitting behind me on a different desk. We were looking after marketing. What was your department?
International books.
International books, right? So I thought, well, this guy looks interesting. And I made sure that we followed up on this to this day now. Now, I don't know if this happens to you when you're 17, 18, 19. If you say to yourself, I wish I kept that person's details. But it doesn't just happen that way. Like, I mean, hundreds of people, but the ones I think I connect with you, we stay in touch. Now, just imagine Carol and I had done
Your connection is just breaking loose for a moment.
And that was it. No follow-up. No,
Gary, we lost the whole of that. We got to imagine Carol and I, and then it went off.
Well, you fill in the blanks, right? Because I'm not where I usually am. Carol, imagine we didn't follow up.
Yeah, follow-up is very important. Actually, it's the one thing when I was early on in my career, I always used to get a black mark on my appraisal about was following up, because for me, and I've always been like this, if somebody says they're going to do something, then I just expect them to do it. But actually in life that doesn't happen. So if a client says, yes, I'm going to send the paperwork back tomorrow, you can't just assume that they're going to do it. You have to follow up with them. If a client says, I'll ring you next week after meeting them at a networking event, don't expect them to do it. You need to be the one to be proactive and do it, because it doesn't happen if you leave it to other people. If it's going to be, it's down to me, is one of my watchwords. There you go.
Well, it should be, shouldn't it? Because that's where the motivation is. Yeah. And if you meet with the right people, they'll want to follow up with you as well.
Yeah, and it's great when they do, but they don't always. So
yeah, and a part of networking is actually being useful to other people. I mean, information is power, but I don't think it's power. I think it's an energy. But energy is useless if you don't let it flow. So I put a lot of effort in introducing some of my contacts to others, because whilst it might not be useful to me, that I met a business from Singapore on Tuesday, and he really could benefit from a company that I'm working with who was in Ukraine now in Romania. So I put them in touch because just keeping that to myself has no value. But sharing those connections has value to them, and it also, interestingly, raises my credibility to those two as well. And you can do an awful lot of good for yourself by being useful to others, rather than just
To
yourself.
do those kind of things, you need an abundance mindset.
You do. Tell us about an abundance mindset, Gary. What does that mean to you?
To me, there's enough work for everybody. I have enough to share it with everybody else. When you have a closed mindset, you find that there's less opportunities around. When you have an open mindset, it's this amazing thing. You're open to new opportunities. So if you don't know what it means, please look into it, guys. We're fast approaching 11:30. If there is any questions, unmic yourself, ask the question, because we're very lucky to be joined today by this amazing man. And he's done 3 times more Kickstarters than Carol and I. That is amazing. He's had 3 times more experience. So please ask some questions, Hannah or Chloe or Kelsey. I know you love to ask a question. Please ask it about other Kickstarters too. So anybody? Hannah?
Yeah, I could ask him, what inspires you to go this route? Like, when you were in school, what inspired you to get into your degree or to go into business?
I just had a desire to do some good in the world. I didn't know what it was, but you just want to achieve your own potential. I mean, I had a pretty good year last year, so I want to do even better this year because I want to see what I can do, what I'm capable of. So I'm competing against me. I'm not competing with anybody else at all. Therefore, I can, as Gary said, abundance mindset, I can share, and money comes from thin air. It really does. It doesn't come from somebody else's pocket. So I want to see what I can achieve, and I'm driven by that. So my goals for this year are even bigger than last year. But I'm happy I accept I'm making mistakes. So, and I'm learning from some of those mistakes as well. So compete with myself. That's what I'm trying to do, to see what I can actually achieve. And you know what? Why not me? Why shouldn't I be the one that benefits from some of the work that I can do, some of the value I can create? Why not me? Why shouldn't I get those things and achieve those things and, do those things that I want to do? And therefore, why not you, Hannah? Why not you? Why shouldn't it be you to write that book, that, take that flight, open that business, get that job? We all deserve it as much as anybody else. It's just a matter of application, just putting the work in to get there. So yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
Everyone's shy today. Here's your opportunity. If there's no questions, let the man go and do some work. I always say that if you don't mind connecting on LinkedIn, offer a testimonial. That's our way of payment. The other way of showing payment is it's not what you say, it's what you make people feel. Can we show some love to today's speaker? He's been brilliant, really and truly. Show some love. Look at this. Look at this.
My appreciation to all of you, Gary and Carol, for what you're doing. The enthusiasm that you do it within, it counts for a lot. I think the enthusiasm, it really shines out. So well done to you. And good luck to everybody who's part of your gateway. Wish you every success. I called one of my guys that worked for me last month. He's just got a job in London, working for an architectural firm. Starting salary £32,000 from national minimum wage to £32,000.
Nice.
That's a result, isn't it?
Yes.
And he was unemployed for quite a while before he started working for me. He's actually one of my own employees for one of my companies. So, if Owen can do it, all of you can, get your successes as well.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Assim.
real pleasure to be here. Thank you, everybody. All the best. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving up half an hour of your time. We really appreciate it. And if you want myself or Carol or both of us to talk to your Kickstarters before the end, because it's not quite finished yet, if there's anyone left, I'll happily give up some time to talk.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. All the best to you. Have a great day. Okay. Bye-bye.
See you Monday, guys.